Hey guys, Slim here with a little bit different of a video than normal. We were talking about the passives and a tier list because one of the helpers from the Anime Fighters server was actually making one to put up and post inside the server. So inside my server, he was asking my opinion on it, and so it got me thinking of making an actual tier list video for it. That's what we're going to be doing right now. I actually have these already organized by rarity, so we're just going to go from our commons all the way up to the mythics. And these negative debuff ones we're going to get out the way, as well as first friend. So these here give you only negative status effects. So they're completely useless, instant reroll no matter what. And first friend, it's only on the first fighter that you get when you start the game. So it's not a passive that you're going to have or use ever. So after that, we have Genius. Genius 1, probably going to be a C tier passive, I'd say. Could be B tier, but just because of the other two Genius passives, I'd say for the most part, you're usually rolling off of Genius 1 in hopes of either Genius 2 or just an actual damage passive or utility passive for the unit that you're rolling it on. So Christmas Fighter's next. Christmas Fighter is pretty much a slightly better Strong 2 because it's 30% attack instead of 25%. Plus, it gives your fighter the little Santa hat. This is one of the holiday exclusive passives from the holiday machine. That was last Christmas. Hack 1 is a D. It's solid if you have difficulties getting shards. I'm going to just say free to play players for the most part until you have trading and you just get lucky. So this is an alright passive, but for the most part, you're going to roll off of it for something better. Same situation with Strong 1. It just has a really low damage multiplier, so it's not that good. Rich 1, I would almost say is useless, only because it's so easy to get Rich 2, 3, and Solid Gold, especially with the new changes to the auto sell where it'll exclude certain passives. So you could just go AFK in any map, the cheapest map if you wanted Super Island, and you can get that full solid gold team. So, but I'll put it in D tier just because it still has some use. That pretty much wraps up our first rarity passives. Going on to the actual rares. Collector 1 is same boat as Rich 1, I would say. It's solid, the entry point to drop passives, but there's better ones and they're not difficult to get. Xmas Rich is Rich 2, the holiday version, but honestly, the higher rarity passives are for the higher bonus. They're too easy to get, so I just put these on. I'm gonna put those together. Same thing for Rich 2, obviously. It's the same passive, so Lucky One is gonna be the first not D tier for the rare rarity. The only reason is because it, even though it does have a low bonus compared to the other two rarities for this passive, it's a reroll only, so it's really difficult to get, and it gives a really good benefit, especially to free to play players that don't have the game passes and probably don't have that many hours. Sorcerer 1, I would put in D. It only reduces the attacks that it takes to charge the ultimate by 1, so it doesn't have any damage bonus at all, so it's useless almost. Strong 2 is probably the first of the passives that you're going to be reconsidering, and when you get it and you want to reroll off of it. It's mostly for free to play players. You're probably going to want to keep this just in case until you get a better amount of shards for a better passive, but the 25% isn't that great. It's just solid, so we'll leave it in the C tier. Leader 1 has the same exact situation as all these others here. It's an entry point into having leader passives, but the others are so easy to get, so the bonus from those other two, leader 2 and leader 3, it just makes this almost useless. This is Xmas Strong. I believe all the Xmases are the same. as the rares of the regular passives. So it's the exact same thing I said for Strong 2, just for this. Genius 2 is going to be the first B tier. The reason is, even though it's not, our legendary Genius 3, Genius 2 is still really good passive on units like your Divines, Shiny and Regular, and your Shiny Secrets. It just helps them level up so much easier. Xmas Tactical, this would be between C and B. The only reason is because it's 65%, unlike TAC 2, which is a 50%. And that 65% is the same as, Giant and Tank. Those are really popular passives. But unfortunately, it is only against bosses, so it's not as good, but it's still a solid passive. Xmas Genius is the same as Genius 2, so it's going to get the same rarity. And that finishes up our rares. And then we have Collector 2. So our first epic one, I'm going to put it in the C tier only because the Collector 3 is legendary, so the rate is a little low, but it's still not that difficult to get a Collector 3 unit. And Draconic, very rare, but with max opens and just going AFK, you'll get a couple, so you'll be fine, especially if you just go to the weak, cheap maps. So we'll leave it in the C tier at best. Strong 3. Strong 3 kind of varies on person to person. Free to play players, this is a really good passive to keep. For pay to win, like the average pay to win player, still a really good passive. You'll probably keep it unless you end up saving up a lot of shards. It just gets you solid damage. So we'll put it in the B tier. Leader 2, I'm going to put in C tier for the same reasons I talked about the difference of Collector 1 and 2. It's a bonus, it's a step up, but the next rarity, it's not too extremely difficult to get, although it is mythical for the next rarity, but you can still end up getting them. I'll put it in the C though, just because of that. Xmas Sorcerer. This is pretty much Sorcerer 2, and because of that, it's gonna actually be Sorcerer 2 and this. Both gonna be, we're gonna put it in the D tier. Even though they take off 2 hits for ultimate, it's very niche use. Mewtwo gets a decent benefit from it because they can just keep doing ultimates, although you won't be able to ult cancel because of that, because he'll get it locked in his cycle where he's going to be trying to finish his first ultimate while his second ultimate is still waiting for that finishing to start up. So for the most part, this is an issue with just the attack reducing passives. They can mess up your ult charge or your ult canceling. I'll go ahead and put Sorcerer 2 in there for that same reason. Rich 3, another C. The solid gold passive is just so good compared to it. Same thing with Generous, although you can't get Generous, of course. Speedy, although it doesn't say it, it does give a 30% attack speed increase, which is pretty much a 30% damage per second increase. It's pretty solid, but you're most likely going to be rolling for something like a strong 3. So this is just a fallback kind of thing. That's why we have it here with like your strong 2s and such. Hack 2, I would say, is in the same situation. You're going to probably end up trying to re-roll it to a strong 3 type of passive, even though it's 50% like strong 3. It's only against bosses, and for the most part, strong 3 isn't too difficult to get compared to like your giants and better. And next is Xmas Collector. This is Collector 2, same situation. It's going right into the C tier. Xmas Leader. So I'm gonna bring Leader 3 up here in a second. I might say I'm gonna make that the first A tier. Same thing with Leader 3. They give it 25% additional bonus to your damage multiplier that's on the bottom right of the screen. So it's not 25% across the board. It's just 0.25x on that damage multiplier on the bottom right, which is the same multiplier that you get from like stars open. It's useful most of the time. If you have a couple incubator units that are really strong, and then some other weak units, you're most often than not going to be better off using a leader unit and then those incubator units. And they don't have to be strong. You can do it on weak units from like Super Island. Next, we're going to be looking at Lucky 2. So, the Lucky passives, like I said before, really good, especially for free to plays. It's just kind of hard to get because you have to re-roll exclusives. So it's going to go into B tier because of the rarity and also the benefit that it gives. 0.25 is pretty good. Next we have Tank. Tank is, even though it's 65% bonus damage compared to the 50% of Strong 3, it's going on the same rarity only because of one thing. It has a negative walk speed multiplier that it's half speed. The speed slowdown that it puts on your units is extremely painful, especially if you don't have the fruits to invest to make your units walk faster. It's definitely troublesome, and before the talent system update, the passive I myself skipped out on multiple times. So I have a couple of controversial takes on some passives. The reason is because I talk about DPS over just purely DPC, and because of that, there's some passives that are a lot better in practice than just looking at the DPC. And the first one that is that situation is going to be Tiny. Tiny is an A tier passive compared to Tank because it moves your unit substantially faster. The damage multiplier is only 20%, so it's not great on your DPC, but it has a 50% attack speed multiplier. And like I talked about with Speedy, that's 50% DPS. So the 50%, you multiply it times 20%, it comes out to 80% damage per second. It doesn't translate as well for ultimates unless your unit's ultimate just hits extremely strong. So, for example, units like Soar from Flame City, those are really good with extreme attack speed bonus passive. So, Ghostly, Blizzard, and Tiny are incredible on, for example, Soar. Same for the mythical there, the shiny craft. So overall, Tiny is an incredible passive to have. I actually might shuffle these down a little bit because we're gonna start getting into the actual hard hitters. I think we're putting those in there. Sorcerer, I think, is going in there as well. Unfortunately, I think in fact we're gonna change this to F. This one is gonna be D. Change this to this color. Our these are gonna go. All these right here are gonna go into it. I think I'm gonna keep Xmas Tactical in there just because it is quite a bit better of a bonus than Strong 2 and Xmas Fighter. Genius 1 and 2 I'll leave together. Actually, Genius 1 is going down here. It is still a usable passive, but more often than not, people end up rerolling. Collector 2 going down, and I think we're dragging down Rich 2. I'll leave Leader 2 up here because I think it's close enough. And Strong 3, that has to come down. Sorcerer 3. Real quick, we're just gonna skip to Genius 3. His passive is just obviously incredible. Might be an A tier. Sorcerer 3. It says a 20% damage bonus plus the 4 hits off. The 4 hits, God has it too, but God has incredible damage multiplier and attack speed multiplier. So it's a very powerful passive. So Sorcerer 3 doesn't have that same benefit. The 20% is alright, but hmm, I'm gonna say it's a D tier passive. Unfortunately, Sorcerer 3 is just not that great. I think Giant, hmm, Tiny and Giant are moving up in the world because I don't want to put Giant on the same as Tank, but I can't separate these two. These are more inseparable than these two are. Giant is just Tank but better. It doesn't have nearly as bad of a movement speed penalty. So because of that, even before the talent system update, I would have used Giant all the time. No issues at all. Gonna skip Tac 3 for a second because I do have a pretty controversial take on it. No, not very controversial, but I have it held in high regards. So Collector 3 is going to be obviously on a higher tier than Collector 2. I would have said this was a B or A tier passive um, about a few weeks ago, but because of the introduction of Draconic, this passive just got booted down the list a bit. I'm going to say it is a B tier passive. It's in between B and C, but I'll put it on B because it's still a good a bonus. So it's definitely going to stay on there. So there's going to be actually three takes on here that are some people might not like, but that's unfortunate for them. So the first off is Pack 3 is one of the best passives in the game. Many probably already know that, but they may not know just how good it is. If I ordered these in terms of damage per second bonus, the list would look like this. Put that like that, that like that, and like that. From Yeti to God. Attack 3 of the available passives in the game still. It's actually like, why is Ghostly not going up? There we go. Uh, Attack 3 is the third best available DPS passive in the game. Fourth, including Blizzard. Blizzard is actually just incredible because of it having double attack speeds. That's 100% bonus DPS from just the attack speed and the 50% bonus to damage, just like Ghostly does, except for Ghostly is only a 50% attack speed bonus. So, Pack 3 honestly is a mythic passive. Often when people talk about legendary passives, I forget Tag 3 is only legendary. I always put it above the rest because of that reason. So Tag 3, in my opinion, is an S tier passive. It's our first one on the list. Even though it's only against bosses, for the most part, bosses take up a lot of health. Even one of the better event or the things that people do the most, which is time trials. That's how you get the best of your yen. And the boss health can take up a majority of your room sets. So it's definitely an incredible passive. Some might put it in A tier. I could understand it, but I have an argument and a higher level of care in my I don't know. I don't have a good wording for it. It just has a soft spot for me. So it's S tier. So now we have our mythic passes. Yeti, so it's on the bottom, but you may not know how much on the bottom. So it's has a 2 times damage multiplier, which looks phenomenal, but it has an attack speed reduced by 30%. Only has 70% the normal attack speed. Because of that, the DPS, including DPC, it's only about 44% or so, which means this passive is actually less DPS bonus than Strong 3. And the only units that Yeti is actually good on is Mewtwo, because he was the strongest available unit that had a low hit count to charge their ultimate. And by low hit count, I mean 4 and less. 3, 2s, and 1s. Mewtwo's the only one that got a good enough bonus with a low hit count to take advantage of having the low attack speed and not being at a great harm to his DPS. So Yeti, because of that, I'm gonna say only because of Mewtwo. If Mewtwo wasn't a unit, it would be a D tier. Mewtwo is a unit, so it's a C tier. That's as high as I would ever be willing to put it, unfortunately. The same situation goes for these next two passives. They have good damage multiplier, 50% and 75%, but they have negative attack speed multipliers. Their saving grace, though, is they are utility passives, so they instantly get boosted up towards the top just because of that one thing. I'm going to leave both of these in A tier, even though their DPS is pretty much strong 3 or so, just because of how hard that they can actually hit on like single hits. It's good to have strong utility units so you don't have to have leader units. So this little bonus here is just a good little benefit on top of the utility passive that they have. Blessing is just all around a great passive to have. I would put this in S tier. In fact, 10% over giant. More movement speed. I think we leave that in S. The rest of these here, well, actually no. So Ace, even though it has a 40% bonus to damage, which is almost as good as Strong 3, it guarantees a crit, and because of the difference of 100% crits to what the max is that you can get normally, which is 35%, that plus DPC and everything, the reason why it has a really high DPS. So it's an incredible passive to have. It's a lot better than Blessing in DPS. And because of that, honestly, I kind of want to put Blessing down here. I'm gonna put Blessing down here because of that. Blessing is the entry point of the high tier passives. Just like Strong 3 is the entry point of the good passives. Yeah, I think it's gonna stay down here. Ace is a good amount better. Same situation with Ghost Sleep. Same situation with Blizzard. They have high attack speed that gives them good DPS on top of their damage multiplier. It's just a good benefit. They stack together, they multiply, so that gives them incredible DPS. Next, we have Lucky 3. Lucky 3 is between A and S. It gets to a point where Lucky 3 kind of has diminishing returns in a sense because luck is supposedly has diminishing returns. No solidified proof of this, but once you get to a point of having a certain amount of luck and you're sitting there and you save your yen and open on luck events, it's not as important. It's still good to have them equipped if you have them, but after you get like 1 or 2, you're fine. So next Generous. I kind of want to put it as an S tier passive. Hmm. I think I'm gonna put it as an S tier passive. The only reason is Generous has the same bonus as Solid Gold, 0.4 times Yen, and the same bonus as Draconic, 0.4 times Drop. Both of them, and a little damage multiplier. I'm gonna leave it in the S tier only because of that one factor. Unfortunately, you can't get it anymore. Maybe it'll come back next Halloween or next Christmas, but we'll have to wait and see. And then obviously God. I mean, it's God. There's nothing else to say about it. It has a 2.25 damage multiplier. It doubles your attack speed and it reduces the hits that you need to charge your ultimate by 4. And even though that's a negative for passives like Sorcerer 3, 2, and 1, it has 2.25 damage multiplier. It's an extra 125%. So it's just hard to beat that. So I think that's pretty much going to be it for this. Um, looking over it one last time. Yeah, I think that's gonna be it. I'm pretty confident in my rankings. There's, maybe a couple things here there that could move up or down. Um, I mean, Collector could go maybe down to C. Yeti could maybe go down to useless. I don't know, but yeah, I think I think that's where we're leaving it at. Well, if you guys have any differing opinions or if you shared some of the same, feel free to let me know in the comments. Definitely also check out my Discord server. I'll have it linked in the video description. Feel free to join, have discussions, hang out with us. I've been doing weekly streams on Fridays at about 7 p.m. Eastern Standard. Plus, this weekend, we're going to be doing attempts for Room 40, not exploited. Unlike, well, unlike some other people. And then after that, we're going to try doing some carries if we can get those successful runs. But just join the Discord and we'll have more information about that in there. Thank you guys, and I hope you have a good time. Take care.